Good evening, Red Star Rebels. It's February 21st, 2023, and this is PodCast Season 3, Episode Number 4. We are Red Star Report. I'm Hal G. Lohr, and this is Voices for the California Nation. For tonight's opening rant, I'm going to stay close to home. This week, Long Beach Mayor Rex Richardson and city officials will host a community meeting at the Silverado Park gym on Thursday, February 23rd at 6:30 p.m. to address concerns about the city's decision to use the public gym as a winter homeless shelter starting at the end of the month. 7th District Councilman Robert Uranga announced the community meeting after West Long Beach residents raised concerns about the winter shelter's location and its potential impact on the area. Mayor Richardson announced the winter shelter at a press conference 2 weeks ago, saying that the temporary facility will provide Long Beach's homeless community with crucial shelter from cold weather through the end of May. But right after that announcement, West Long Beach residents began pushing back on the city's choice of the Silverado Park gym. A group of residents held a rally at the gym on Saturday, demanding that city officials reconsider the shelter's location, and about 1,000 people so far have signed a Change.org petition. Opposition to the facility also spoke out during the public comment portion of the City Council's Tuesday, February 14th session. My concern is one of greenspace equity, insufficient community engagement, and, in my opinion, short-sighted planning, said West Long Beach resident David Garcia. Silverado Park is the largest and most accessible park in Long Beach's West Side 7th District, a largely impoverished district already mostly ignored by City Hall as it suffers with the worst air quality in the western United States due to oil refinery, port, and truck exhaust pollution. This, along with another claim to fame of having the least green space per capita in Los Angeles County. With this in mind, community speakers cited concerns over the safety of children and seniors who both use the park's community center and the park's gym for recreational activities and after-school programs if the park is converted to a homeless facility. A problem already under community pressure, as some local residents discussed the west side already being used by the city of Long Beach openly as a center for homeless dumping from the city's wealthier neighborhoods on the Nextdoor app. Along with Westside residents' complaints that also talk about how potholes gape, the gutters filled with leaves and trash, and street medians always grow untended until just before city elections. A history of city policy of poor community neglect that would never happen along Ocean Boulevard or in trendy Belmont Shore or wealthy Bixby Knolls. But city officials during Tuesday's meeting didn't respond to public questions in any detail. Rex Richardson commented later that he heard a number of inaccuracies about the shelter during public comment. 7th District Councilman Robert Uranga said, as always, communication is key to understanding, and apparently the city did not do enough communicating with constituents to make this program go over much easier than it has. Yeah, really. Because, of course, it will go over easier to explain to a poor community that you're going to take away the Central Park from a disadvantaged neighborhood than to consider ever inconveniencing the privileged, right? There were 3,300 homeless people in Long Beach last year lacking any form of shelter and exposed to the elements on a daily basis, according to studies. The new winter shelter will serve 84 people at a time and will be open 24 hours a day at Silverado Park Gym until at least May. So, as the weather warms, the homeless will lose their shelter, and maybe the city of Long Beach will return what's left of the park in time for Little League this summer, right? I'd say to our West Side Long Beach community, don't hold your breath. But at this point, and with the local air quality, that doesn't really mean much. But for something that might, go to the change.org petition using the link below and sign it. Because as Californians, we have the 5th largest economy on the planet. So come on, we can do better than this. And for those local Red Star rebels hearing this, maybe I'll see you at the meeting on Thursday, February 23rd at 6:30 p.m. at the Silverado Park Gym. This is Voices for the California Nation with Hal G. Lohr speaking for the hashtag New Cal Exit podcast, Red Star Report, as heard on KPFK 90.7 Los Angeles, Rebel Alliance News.
We have such an aversion to slavery because historically there have been abuses. There have been abuses in marriage. We don't have an aversion to marriage particularly because there have been abuses. Of course, it can have any kind of situation where abuse can be involved. So to throw out slavery as a concept simply because there have been abuses, I think, is to miss the point. In any kind of human relationship, there can be abuses. There can also be benefits. For many people, poor people, perhaps people who weren't educated, perhaps people who had no other opportunity, working for a gentle, caring, loving master was the best of all possible worlds. And that is the issue. Slavery is not objectionable if you have the right master. It's the perfect scenario.
Tonight, on Activism in Action, Shankar Singham explains the block invasion tactic pioneered here in California during the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. A controversial protest tactic of going to the home of an elected official who's behaved badly and disturbing their illusion that they can ruin people's lives and then just go home in peace and security. Too often in America, public officials have demanded a shield of a polite society to insulate themselves from public reaction to some really horrible things. Tonight, Shankar Singham walks you through block invasion tactics. Don't keep him waiting.
Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Red Star Report's Activism in Action. A few episodes ago, I had discussed the effects of a block invasion-style home residential protest, how it affected neighbors, and the consequent backlash onto the target from their community. Since then, I have heard some comments that the block invasion protest achieved very little to alter outcomes and does unprovoked harm on neighbors who had nothing to do with the issue or the subject of the protest. I will address these two concerns today, as well as provide some insight and tactics into achieving a more desired outcome with the block invasion versus a traditional marching and rallying protest. First, let's tackle the question of why certain actions are perceived to achieve very small, if any at all, gains to the issue. So to answer that question, we must ask ourselves, why are we protesting? Why are we walking and marching down the street? What are we hoping to gain? Why are we in front of someone's house yelling at them? What are we hoping to gain? Well, the general goal of a block invasion, home protest, is to make the individual responsible, the target, his life very uncomfortable. That's it. It's to the point where the target, the person coming home to his sanctuary, that sanctuary is taken away, wherein that individual goes to sleep at night wondering if he will be awakened in the morning to the sound of a bullhorn in his front yard, or driving home after work and wondering if they might be met with scores of police cars parked, lined up on the sidewalk with a few dozen protesters chanting his name and deeds against the community. That's it. That's the intended goal. Make that person's life uncomfortable. The goal isn't to enact legislation or demand justice in a courtroom, the goal of a block protest is to make the subject of the protest uncomfortable. So much so that they consider leaving. The second part of the question is the unprovoked harm to the neighbors. The neighbors will be upset at your presence. It is important to explain to them that the reason for your presence. In explaining to them, you will find out that 8 or 9 out of 10 times, the neighbor will side with the target. That's a good neighbor. Regardless of their personal feeling about the subject or why you are there, this neighbor has to live next to the subject and will side with them definitely. It is important that the neighbors know exactly why you are there, as it sets up the target to be admonished at a later time. And it exposes the target to perhaps some sympathizing or uninformed neighbors. You will find that this action carries over a few blocks, and you'll have the entire neighborhood come out to witness the cavalcade of police and protesters, and sometimes even the media, in their once quiet neighborhood. If you have achieved both of the above outcomes, of making the individual uncomfortable and the neighborhood aware of the person living on their block is a sociopath, excellent job. It's only a matter of a few weeks before that person, at the behest of his neighbor's request or hopefulness, put up their home for sale. And this is where the truly desired effect of the block invasion takes root and blossoms. Putting a home on the market allows potential buyers to view the home's location, the neighborhood, as well as find out as much information about the home before purchasing. How many people are going to buy a protest house? How many people are going to buy a home that was once scorned by thousands and that is easily identifiable and found online for more protesters to show up unaware that the previous owner had sold it? As the months go by, the target of the block invasion will drop the asking price of the home. And as the value of his house decreases, guess what happens to the value of the neighbors' homes that defended him? Now you've hit them where it counts, in the wallet. Here are some tactics for a successful home invasion. 1, do not camp out or set up a tent in the neighborhood. Hit and go home. Come back the next day, 2 days later, next week. Hit it for a couple of hours, then leave. The element of surprise is the strongest and most effective part of a block invasion. Keep them guessing. Camping out and setting up tents for days or weeks at a time is pointless. The neighborhood will get used to your presence. The target will stay at a hotel until the situation blows over. It's just a bad idea to camp out all the way around. Some days when you hit the block, take 10 people. A week later, take 3. A week after that, take 50. Hit them at 5 p.m. on a Wednesday. Then hit them at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. The amount of stress the target endures is a mind screw. Number 2, know all the local ordinances and laws for the area that you'll be protesting. What's the curfew? What's the noise ordinance decibels? At what times per day are they allowed? All this information is found at the city clerk's website. Is the neighborhood unincorporated? Are police or sheriff going to respond? As long as you are on the sidewalk or street, you are on public property, law enforcement cannot arrest you as long as you are following the ordinances. Number 3, do not step on private property. This is private property. If you are on it, touching it, standing on it, or an individual can have you removed. Remember, we are there for the neighbors. Walk the block. Make your presence known. Encourage discussion with the neighbors. You may come across the hero of the block, the neighbor that will come to the defense of the target. Do not engage. You are protesting. Engaging with him may be perceived as assault by the police. If anything from this person touches you, press charges immediately. All of this seems very dramatic. Number 4, yeah, be dramatic. Make it dramatic. Hire musicians. Have the event catered. Invite food trucks to park it. Call the media and invite them to lunch. Make it an event. Make it dramatic. Lastly, as effective as this style of protest is, it is easily overcome by the target by doing one simple act. It's too simple that the thought of it never even occurred. In all of the block invasions I've done over the years, this has happened twice and resulted in an end to the protesting of someone's home. And what could this dubious and powerful act by the target is that stopped dozens of protesters from destroying the peace and tranquility of the neighborhood? Why, it's simply come out and talk with us. If a target chooses to engage in discussion, it is important to listen to why the target did what they did and the reasons why and the choices they had. If it is all laid out, nobody can blame or protest said target. Unfortunately, this is a rarity. That's all I got. Hal, back to you.
Thank you, Shankar. Block invasion tactics have been peacefully used by activist groups in California since 2017. Bullhorns to a mariachi band have all been used to bring attention to people that don't want attention brought to what they've done. And that is activism in action. Next up, how free do Californians like their freedom of speech? Let's go to talking points. That's right, Red Star Rebels. Our friends at listeners-supported KPFK 90.7 FM Los Angeles are having a winter fund drive. And every year since 1959, they've fought the good fight to bring in enough money to keep a place on the airwaves where real voices for freedom and justice can still be heard. No corporate messaging to spread, no sponsors to offend with inconvenient truths, and no Wall Street parent company stock prices to worry about. Just the day-to-day fight of trying to figure out how to keep public broadcasting on the air in a time when just a few media conglomerates own almost every other soapbox in the public space. A fight to preserve one of the last real modern incarnations of freedom of speech. A place where even a relatively new and small #New Cal Exit media group like Red Star Report can find a radio voice. A fight we Red Star Rebels need to support if California's real progressive values really mean what we believe them to mean. So I begin tonight's Red Star Report talking point by asking everyone hearing this to go to KPFK's website. Go to the donate section and make a pledge to keep KPFK 90.7 Los Angeles on the air. Red Star Rebels, the California independence movement needs this. Because for tonight's talking points, we have to ask, does America still even have freedom of speech? We've all heard the capitalist version of the golden rule that goes, he who has the gold makes the rules. What's hard to actually get and keep our heads around is that in the last quarter century, he who has the gold is also the one who hires lobbyists to write the rules. He creates super PACs to buy and control politicians to pass and defend the rules. He promotes Supreme Court justices to interpret and enforce the rules. And most important for this conversation, he owns the corporate media that frames the narrative about the rules. Even down to the point of ending any semblance of net neutrality when he can simply buy an entire internet media company and deplatform anyone or anything he disagrees with. A modern reality that's created a paradigm where corporations are now considered we the people, and money is speech. so effectively in keeping with the basic tenets of American capitalism, the First Amendment has now been privatized. So question, does America still even have freedom of speech? Actually, no. With the monetization of public discourse, what we as Californians see happening across the United States can pretty easily be explained by the term feedom of speech, as in fee, where pay-to-play politics now have almost unlimited control over the narrative in every aspect of the media. Stock prices and market share are the driving force, rather than honest messaging and an informed public. A corporate state media that any fascist dictator would be proud of. We at Red Star Report say it's all about the algorithms, but even those internet algorithms are limited by the amount of bandwidth privately owned companies allow websites to access based on profit. Which means in America, no matter how right the cause, how true the message, or how needed the information, if it doesn't fit the capitalist agenda America wants to promote, it's just not going to happen. And God help us if it all goes off the air and those voices are silenced. This is Talking Points with Hal G. Lohr speaking for the hashtag New Cal Exit podcast Red Star Report, as heard on KPFK 90.7, Los Angeles Rebel Alliance News. That's it for podcast number 4 of our 3rd season. The 69th Red Star Report podcast, if you're counting. I guess tonight's theme did have a bit of oral tradition in it. Going to leave that right there. As always, for more Red Star Report information, check out our website at redstarreport.com. Please subscribe to our Red Star Report YouTube channel. Go to our Red Star Report Facebook page, Twitter page, and Instagram page and give us a like and a follow, because if you want to support the real California independence movement's hashtag New Cal Exit Media Group, it's still all about the algorithms. Oh, and remember to click that link below and pledge support for our friends at listener-supported radio KPFK 90.7 Los Angeles, or your local Pacifica broadcasting station. Our thanks to you, our Red Star Rebels, for watching. We are Red Star Report.